The Honourable Shane Mallard.
Mr Pearson leaving the building, so I'll take his spot.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I rise today to speak about the relationship between Australia and Japan, and specifically the sister city relationships. I'm prompted to speak on this after speaking in this place last week on Victory in the Pacific Day. That commemorative motion, well supported by the Chamber, caused me to reflect upon our country's relationship with our once adversary. And how countries and cities across the globe have been reconnected after the Second World War, developing into strong and prosperous economic and security relationships, and how the Japan we spoke of and reflected on of the 1940s is very, very much different to the Japan of the last half-century that we hold as a dear friend country today. Sister cities have their origins in the post-World War II era, aimed at allowing citizens to understand different communities, cultures and people. Following the incredible destruction and loss of life caused by the Second World War, international diplomacy focused on avoiding such conflicts in the future. World leaders hoped to learn from their mistakes made before World War II that may have led to the reoccurrence of all-out war again. But not everyone could engage in diplomacy at such a grand scale. Average citizens looked for ways to create a sense of international community. Out of this impulse came the modern concept of town twinning, which was intended to foster friendship and understanding among different cultures and between former foes as an act of peace and reconciliation and encourage trade and tourism. The rise of sister cities began in Europe. Although sister city relationships existed before World War II, there were few such official arrangements. Soon after the war, the mayors and citizens of European towns that were opposed in battle began pairing up unofficially as a way to promote peace and understanding. Sister city relationships are now valued as a source of economic growth through increased tourism and trade, but perhaps these economic relationships actually serve the mission of keeping the peace as well as cultural engagement. And I will acknowledge, just in passing, that sister city relationships are controversial in Australia because of some perceptions of abuse through local government. But I'll reflect on that more in a minute in terms of my experience. Some researchers believe that increased international trade decreases the likelihood of conflict between countries in a way that originators of the sister cities probably never really imagined. The economic relationships of sibling communities may continue to institute the purposes of preventing war. After being established in 1978, the Japan-Australia Society of Nagoya soon started talking with the Australian-Japan Society of New South Wales about a sister city affiliation between Nagoya City and Sydney City. In 1979, the Japanese Consul General in Sydney informed the city of Nagoya that the Lord Mayor of Sydney would welcome the early realisation of a sister city affiliation with the city of Nagoya. After a series of discussions, Nagoya concluded a sister city affiliation with the city of Sydney in 1980. But that formal relationship goes right back to not long after World War II, when it's said that two adversaries, veterans from Japan and Sydney, decided to establish a relationship between Nagoya and Sydney. And that's reflected in the Nagoya Gardens in Hyde Park, which were actually established in 1964 and are very much admired and appreciated by Sydneysiders, but also visitors from Japan who often go to visit it. Mr Deputy President, the Japanese have taken sister city relationships very seriously, more so than the Australians have, in my view. The Sydney and Nagoya relationship, Nagoya regularly sends, pre-COVID, large delegations of officials and business community leaders, probably 60 to 100 in the delegation. The city in return sends 2 or 3 councillors. I was indeed a lucky recipient of one of those return visits. I attended the 30th anniversary of the sister city relationship between Nagoya and Sydney, and was treated like royalty in the city of Nagoya. Street parades and festivals to commemorate our two cities' friendship, program of social and business engagements, and I was greatly honoured. Nagoya and also I should point out Nagoya Zoo, the topic du jour. Nagoya Zoo has of course got koalas from Sydney, and it's a sister city zoo to Taronga. The strong people-to-people links continue to contribute significantly to the strength of our bilateral relationships. These links are reflected in extensive, well-established sister city relationships. In our COVID environment, one hopes in the future refreshed, restructured sister city relationships will flourish and be encouraged to flourish as we try to reach out to our friends across the globe who are sharing this pandemic suffering that we're going through at the moment. And I'll say, controversially perhaps at the moment, I particularly hope that we can get past our differences with our friends in China and restore our civic relationship with our friends in Guangdong, our sister state, and Guangzhou, our sister city for Sydney. So those few words, I just wanted to reflect upon the modern relationship with our former adversaries.